If you're lucky enough to look under 21, nobody here, then you might slightly get perturbed if you're asked for ID at your local off-licence when you're grabbing a bottle of Lambrini. But if former Prime Minister Sir Tony Blair and former leader of the Tory party Lord William Hague have their way, then digital IDs would be compulsory for everyone in Britain to prove their identity, their age, their driving licence, the right to live and work in the UK, and even their educational qualifications. This will upset the vegans, but somebody's written, have a butcher's at this.
It's the 21st century equivalent of the Industrial Revolution. And unless we as a country understand, and the politics of the country understand this revolution and try and harness it properly, then we're going to get left behind.
It then allows government to organise itself to have more personalised healthcare, to know what benefits people should be getting, to know whether people have the right to live and work in the United Kingdom, of course, which is a very important consideration when it comes to those small boats.
So are digital IDs the way forward? To discuss this, first up, I'm joined by the Deputy Leader of Bassett Law District Council, Joe White. Joe, welcome to Jeremy Kyle Live as Tim trips over a wire. Do you think IDs are a good idea, and if so, why?
Yeah, I'm really pleased to hear that Tony Blair's backing it. He was backing it in the 2000s. It's not, so this isn't a new idea. When people are fleeing to come to Britain, there's a number of reasons why they do that. The first is the language. It's a universal language of business and commerce. But the other reason is that they don't need an ID card. They go through countries like Germany, France, Italy, all of which need ID cards. And you need an ID card to get to work, to get a job, to use health services, to go to school. And by having an ID card, it means that people actually will pass through those countries to come to Britain because they don't have an ID.
With the greatest of respect, though, what about the people who live in Great Britain and would argue against the fact and say that's more bloody data the government and whoever else is going to have on us? Why do we have to be locked into the same lot as the rest of them?
No, I think it's far easier than that. We can actually use our biometric passports, so we can actually introduce ID cards without any additional costs. And perhaps for under 16s, it should be free. For over 65, you can use your biometric passport, but you never need to renew it, so there's no additional cost for them. So carrying around your passport isn't that difficult.
So are you telling me that the main reason that you agree with this is that illegal immigration would be lowered, which is how we started this show with digital IDs? Yes, is that what you're saying? I think it would act as a preventative. So people are less likely to want to come to Britain if they have to provide an ID card to access our services and get a job or go to hospital. Joe, the signal's not great, but we know you came in last minute, and we really appreciate Joe White for joining us. Richard Tice has just removed his head from his hands.
That's just extraordinary. I mean, look, the reality is that actually what they were suggesting, it's quite amusing, that little picture of Blair and Hague, they couldn't be further away from each other if they tried. They were like on the edge of the screen.
You and me, wasn't it? That's just ridiculous, man.
But no, the reality is they want to introduce this, and it was Tony Blair who said it's in order to redesign the state and the public services. And the worry is it's the element of control and monitoring, and what does it lead towards? Let's remember, during the COVID crisis, when we were all being told to be vaccinated, many senior journalists were saying, if you're not vaccinated, you can't access the NHS, right? So this is where it goes. You end up like the China social credit system, where they can control what you spend in what shop if you bought too much beer, too much steak.
OK, but what
That's where it ends up.
All right, but the other side of the point of what Joe White said was this could be an improvement for the illegal immigration problem,
which we already have biometric.
I'm not sticking up for it. You don't have an argument.
But we already have biometric residence permits. So for people that gain permission to be here under the immigration system, they receive a card. So we already have that system in place. I'm not convinced that having an additional thing will counter that. I think we've had the debate in this country about ID cards, and it was a while ago. It was 15 years ago. I think there's some additional challenges that we might need to meet as a country because of the technological revolution. But I'm certainly not convinced that introducing ID cards is going to tackle these issues.
I have no idea what problem they're trying to solve with this, because we've got so many other things we're trying to solve.
Well,
and can I just remember?
It's about digital identity.
No. But the thing is, because having all that information in one place, you know, there's a saying in technology, you know, you're not hacked until you are hacked. And, you know, where is the fact you'd have all that information in one place? And when you steal someone's identity, you're now going to steal every part of them in one place? It's absurd beyond belief.
Well, it's actually interesting. We did a poll, making it about the people. We asked, do you support the idea of ID cards? Yes, 17%, no, 83%. Just some comments. Brian, anything that gives the powers to be more control should be an automatic no. Pete says it should be a voluntary scheme rather than a compulsory one. Once these cards are compulsory, you'll have a police state. Democracy and individual liberty are two of our fundamental British values. Chris says, great idea. Everything all in one place. Johnny, it's sinister. Steve says, at one time, yes, but more and more freedoms are being stripped away. This would be more handover control to the big brother establishment. JR, really? Swelling, you're drunk. That was my impression. Next will be a grain of rice-sized chip inserted in between thumb and forefinger. And Jake says, yes, but only if it's optional. It would make some people's life easier, but it should not be a requirement for all.
I mean, some people need ID because if you're going out on a Saturday night and you go into a club now, quite often they were asking for ID. You can't get in the building until they've scanned it. So if you can't get a driving licence because you don't drive and you don't want to travel, you don't pay for a passport, there is some argument to say there should be some other thing that you can get. And you can get things for like...
That's different. That's not what they're proposing.
That's not what they're proposing. They're proposing a wholesale digitalisation all in one place. They've got all our data. They know where we are. They know what we're spending. It's the state, the authoritarian
Big brother.
And then it's linked to a central bank digital currency. And then we're into a really, really bad place.
Now, this isn't a cheap shot, but you're quite pro-Europe, aren't you? European countries have this, so aren't you supporting it?
They get what? All a biometric, everything in one place?
Some of them do, yeah.
Some of them do, but I'm not caring what they're doing. I'm caring what we're doing here. Because in financial services, my other day job, is that the amount of fraud that's increased because things have gone online and gone digital is increased by about 400%. You know, we can't even control what we've got at the moment. What worries me is the fact you have everything in one place. I'm not saying that you should be able to opt in if you want to have a form of digital ID, but the minute you put it all in one place and it can be accessible in one place, who owns that data? Is it your data? Is it the state's data? What can they do with it? You know, there are lots of answers that there are lots of questions that need to be answered before you jump to that's the solution.
What do you think about this?
I just think we've seen in the last couple of years, you cannot trust the state to act in a democratic way that protects and preserves our freedoms and liberties. And I think you've seen that from the comments. Brian was absolutely right. Definitely not. There is something slightly sinister about it. We grew up learning to trust the government, but I'm afraid, actually, they've shown themselves not to be trustworthy.
We've got so many other things that need resolving before this.
It's almost as if two dinosaurs have decided to sort of... You're absolutely right about where they're sitting.
But also there's the point that, you know, we do have mechanisms in place. It's not like we don't have them. You know, the point that William Hague made, unfortunately, is inaccurate because we've got these biometric... Surely not a politician making an inaccurate comment. It was interesting that Jo White said that she thought this was all about... you know, dealing with illegal immigration. But I tried to make the point, not as eloquently as you lot, but that actually not all of us are illegal immigrants. We lived here all our lives, and there is a fear that the state, if that's how you want to put it, has too much bloody information on all of us.
Exactly. I mean, it would make no difference at all. I don't know where she was going with that. Look, just focus on the control and focus on where this leads us, and it leads us to a very bad place indeed.
So just before we end, because I've loved it tonight, going forward, Jeremy Corbyn's gone, Keir Starmer's marching towards number 10 Downing Street. Are the Reform Party going to make a glorious, you know, entry into British politics?
Well, we will do the best we can.
40% of the vote, no seats, that sort of thing?
Thank you very much. We've actually just yesterday highest with 10% across the whole of the 40 seats in the Red Wall. So... actually, we're making progress. We stand everywhere, 630 seats. We will have a massive impact in shaping and influencing the next election.
Good for you, Gina. What about your party? What's the plans? What are the thoughts?
Well, True and Fair are standing in seats where we're the only true opposition against the Conservative Party. But one thing I hope that whatever happens is proportional representation is the red line. Our democracy is not working.
Why don't you two join forces?
I don't think there's quite a lot of things we don't agree on, but I think
agree on that. And
PR we definitely agree. We definitely agree on.
What do you agree on?
On proportional representation.
Proportional representation.
So just join up, man. Make it your deputy. You might win.
There's lots of other things we disagree on, but that's really important. So that every vote matters. Every vote has equal weight. That's absolutely critical. So the democracy works.
And for me, we've got to get a system that keeps MPs to account. We need an ethics law, as so many other countries have.
And make your ethics advisor if you're Prime Minister, not one of your best mates.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is that I am persuaded by proportional representation, making every vote count, but we need to also maintain some form of constituency link, because if people don't have a named representative to go to, it means that they're so distant from our politics.
But the Welsh and the Scottish systems already achieve that. It's 2/3, 1/3, so you get...
So my great wish is in 2 years you all win. What's the chances of that? Then I won't have anybody to come
We'll keep battling on, Jeremy.
You're not going to stand? No. You're going to stand, are you?
Yeah, I'm standing against Chris Grayling.
Chris Grayling,
yeah.
The man who once said the whole problem with the generation is Jeremy Kyle generation. You can beat him, he's Epsom, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm fighting him.
He likes horses. I'll tell you some of that off air. Where are you standing? Hartlepool?
Hartlepool, I'm standing at Hartlepool.
Why? Why are you standing at Hartlepool?
Because that's where I stood the last time. I've opened my office up there and we are beavering away. And it's a two-horse race between Labour and Reform. So I think
is it really a two-horse race?
It's a two-horse race. The current Tory MP will be ousted. And we'll see.
Interesting. Listen, an absolute pleasure to three sort of political titans, bearing in mind what's coming next. Richard Tice, leader of Reform UK, Gina Miller, leader of True and Fair Party, and Luciana Berger. Thank you so much, former Labour MP.